Good morning, Karen Friedman, Agnifilo. Good morning, members of the Midas Mighty Legal AFers. We are now at the end of the week. This is day 4 of the Trump criminal trial in Manhattan. Karen, it's been a very eventful week. The only day where there wasn't a trial day this week was Wednesday. And when you and I were recording live on Thursday afternoon, when we started that half hour, they had only selected 7 jurors who were sworn in. And then at that last 3-minute period, it happened all at once. They then were able to swear in the other 5 jurors, so a total of 12. And then just as you and I signed off, because I thought that would be, pretty much it for the day, and you were saying, just hold one more second. And I was like, I don't know, we got to go to political beatdown right now. They then picked the alternate juror. So as of this morning, as we head into Friday, day 4 of the Trump criminal trial, we now have 12 jurors sworn in, 1 alternate sworn in. We need 5 more alternates. So why don't I start there, Karen? Toss it to you about the jury selection. And then after we hear from you about jury selection, maybe I'll give a little bit of a recap of day 1, day 2, day 3, where we are, and I'll show some of the clips of Donald Trump complaining about how cold he was. And then it seems that Donald Trump's lawyers gave him like a picture book to entertain him. Like I'm not making this up, Karen. Let me show you that clip first, though. I'm sorry. I can't help myself here because this is just too wild to believe. Well, no, it is when it comes to Donald Trump. So because he was threatening and intimidating witnesses and grunting and also falling asleep, it seems what his lawyers decided that they needed to do to control him is they created a picture book for him, like a little baby. And the picture book has all the headlines from all of the right-wing media people on Fox. And so Donald Trump would just flip through the headlines that make him feel good. And then when Donald Trump left the courtroom on day 4, he came out with his picture book that his lawyers made for him. Here, let me just show you this clip of him coming out, and he's saying how he'd rather be in this state or that state than be here today. But then he comes out with his picture book. Here, let's play this clip.
That's a nice headline. I'd like to read that one too. But every one of them lies about the case. Justice is on trial. You know, the whole world is watching this New York scam.
So, Karen, that's his picture book. Let me show you the one where he comes out, though, where he goes, I'm supposed to be in Georgia, North Carolina, and then he takes out the picture book. Here, watch this.
In New Hampshire, I'm supposed to be in Georgia, I'm supposed to be in North Carolina, South Carolina, I'm supposed to be in a lot of different places campaigning, but I've been here all day on a trial that really is a very unfair trial. These are all stories. This is over the last few days from legal experts. This is Wall Street Journal editorial. But all of these are stories from legal experts saying how this is not a case. The case is ridiculous. There's another one. The case is a ridiculous Trump indictment. It's missing fraud. There is no fraud. All of these stories are stories of how, and these are done by the experts, and editorials. Bragg falsified business record, and he falsifies them. He's the one. He's the fraud. But take a look at all of these are stories. You see them here. Bragg's indictment even falls as an indictment. All of them. Bragg crosses the Rubicon, indicting Trump on nonsense.
You can't even read it. Karen, what do you make of what's going on?
I mean, he seems kind of frail and he doesn't seem vigorous. He's flipping through the stuff and Bragg's the fraud. Bragg falsified business records. Like, what is he even talking about? It makes no sense. And when I look at that and I think, okay, well, if that's the case, then you should be so happy that you picked a jury. You picked it, right? Like, you have challenges, you have peremptory challenges, you have really good, unlike some of his past trials with lawyers that I don't have a lot of respect for and didn't do a great job. He's got some really good lawyers here. Todd Blanche and Susan Necklace in particular are good lawyers. They're good, respected lawyers, especially Susan Necklace. She's a practitioner in this area and she has a good reputation. And so when he says things like, "Oh, I didn't know I have 10, there were only 10 challenges. I thought I had unlimited challenges." That's not possible because it's in the statute. The judge told them. And of course, he has good lawyers who know that. And I'm sure they told him as well. And so, by the way, that's how the whole trial started. The judge says each side gets 10 peremptory challenges. I don't know, maybe he was sleeping during that part of the trial, but it's so clear that's how it goes. And every lawyer, especially, like I said, a good one, is going to tell their client that. So so because he had those challenges, when the jury came out, he through his lawyers, and it was widely reported that the lawyers would confer with him as they're supposed to in terms of determining which jurors they want. His lawyers questioned the jury. They had people doing an investigation online into public social media posts. They went back and questioned them again. They got some of them challenged because they were not going to be fair and impartial. All the ones who said, "I can't be fair, I hate Trump, I love Trump," all the ones that can't be fair for this particular case, who said, "I know too much about it," or "I've already prejudged the case," or "I can't look at the evidence and render a verdict based on the evidence," they were all stricken for cause, which means the judge finds that they're not qualified. So you don't have to exercise your 10 peremptory challenges. He is correct. You do have an unlimited number of those. If someone's not qualified, they will not be on the jury. There's no number of challenges, but there are 10 challenges that you get that you can exercise for any reason, right? You think that they look at you strange. You don't, when you look at them on social media, they express a view about you or about politics or about something that you think makes it so that they're not going to be someone who's sympathetic to your side. He's got a whole team of people who are doing research as to each of these jurors, and he conferred with his lawyers and he chose this jury. He chose not to exercise his peremptory challenges for these 12 people. And same with the prosecution. So these are his jurors. They are the ones judging him, not Joe Biden, not Alvin Bragg, the DA, not Judge Merchan, all the people he thinks are biased and Trump hating, because he always refers to himself in the third person. I don't know if you've noticed that. He talks about, it would be like me saying, Agnifilo is being persecuted. Agnifilo, there's a witch hunt out for Agnifilo. It's like as if I'm not me, right? He talks about Trump, this is doing this to Trump, whatever. It's so bizarre when people do that. Anyway, and so he chose this jury. If he thinks that this is nonsense, that this is not based on the law, that it's not based on the facts, well, then you'll be acquitted because that's how the system works. Not any of these other people are going to be deciding this. Like I said, Judge Merchan's not deciding this. Alvin Bragg's not deciding this. Joe Biden's not deciding it. It's the jury he picked. So the witnesses are going to come in. They're going to swear to tell the truth. And I've actually served on a jury before, believe it or not. I served on a civil jury while I was an assistant DA. Obviously, they knew what I did for a living. I was shocked that I got picked. And it was like a car accident case. And the trial happened. We went back, we deliberated, and everyone assumed I was going to be the leader, right? That I would be the leader of the jury, like kind of the one that in the 12 Angry Men, the one that would kind of lead everyone towards a verdict. And I made up my mind. Watching the evidence, I had a point of view. I made up my mind. And as a result, I ended up not really participating that much because I knew what I wanted. There was a guy who ended up kind of rising to the top as the leader and really kind of brokered the evidence and talked. And the one thing that I was really stunned by serving on a jury was how seriously they take it, how much they absolutely put aside any extraneous information. If lawyers tried to play games or be too theatrical, they didn't pay attention to that stuff. It was like, okay, well, let's look at the evidence, what the witness said. The witness said that there's proof of something. Let's look at that proof. And I was so impressed at how just really seriously they took it and only looked at the evidence and not personalities and all those things. And it wasn't like, oh, we don't like the defendant or anything like that. It was really interesting. And so I don't know. And that's my experience also being a trial lawyer, is you weed out the people as they did here. That's why so many people were weeded out. You weed them out and you cull it to the people who can be fair and impartial. And that's what we have here. So we have 12 jurors and 1 alternate. They have 5 more alternates to select. I hope and think that it'll be done by tomorrow. By today, by Friday. It should be done by the end of today. And I don't think we're going to go into Monday for jury selection. Obviously, something else could happen, depending on obviously anything can happen. Something could come up overnight. Donald Trump could tweet something out that could cause more motion practice. I was surprised today when the prosecutor amended their order to show cause to add 4 more violations. So now there's 7 total. I was surprised that the judge didn't move up the hearing to yesterday, to Thursday, when the prosecutors went in there and did that. So he still kept it to next week. But I think if Donald Trump kept going, I could see the judge today saying, you know what, let's deal with this. I need to deal with this. But if not, I think we're going to have our entire jury by the end of today. And I think I'm going to win my lunch bet with Michael Popak, who I said the jury was going to be picked this week. He said it was going to go into next week. And next week, opening statements could be as soon as Monday morning. I was surprised actually that we're sitting at all on Monday and Tuesday because of Passover, but I think the judge is thinking about having a Monday morning session and not giving the whole day off. That's what I'm hearing. What about you?
Well, you got to give Popak an E for effort, or an
He might
A
still win.
or an A for ambitious. I mean, if I were to challenge Tiger Woods to golf, I think that or knowledge of golf, I'm not sure that I would prevail on that one, even if I shot a great round, although I don't really play golf. But Karen, you're the former number 2 at the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. You've picked a lot of juries in that courtroom, in that criminal court. You supervised so many lawyers at that office. You served as the acting Manhattan District Attorney at certain points in times. You worked at that office for nearly 30 years. And so your experience, insight, and predictions here are invaluable. So's Michael Popak. I wouldn't bet against Michael Popak in anything regarding the financial fraud, regarding any of the SEC issues relating to Donald Trump, the SPAC, the Trump stock issues, the derivative shareholder lawsuits, the Delaware Chancery cases. But that's why we have a wide array of expertise here. If I may, just to remind everybody kind of what's gone down this week. We've been keeping our daily scorecards from day 1, day 2, day 3. Remember, Monday was day 1, Tuesday was day 2, Thursday was day 3. Today is day 4. Let's remind everybody how it all began. Let's start with Trump trial day 1. Let's put it up right there. Let's put the graphic up. Immediately, Trump filed another motion to recuse Justice Merchan. That was denied. The evidence of Trump engaging in a catch and kill scheme, first with AMI National Enquirer before paying off Stormy Daniels through the falsification of business records to interfere with 2016 election. That's coming in. The Manhattan District Attorney on day 1, Karen, as you mentioned, filed that motion for contempt first based on 4 statements. That was then amended to add 3 other statements. The judge expedited that contempt hearing. Here it says to April 23rd. It's actually going to be on the 24th. Donald Trump continued to fall asleep. The judge ordered Trump submit his exhibit book, his defense exhibits, because they had not submitted that on the first day. Trump continued to fall asleep, and then they went through numerous jurors. So that was day 1, just to remind everybody. Then we went to Trump trial day 2, which was Tuesday. Trump arrived. He blamed his accountant and lawyers for the fraud that was committed during a morning press conference. Trump initially said that he was going to be at all of the sidebars. Then he waived that. The voir dire process resumed. Donald Trump continued to fall asleep. He scowled at a juror, at which he was admonished by Justice Merchan. There was more voir dire that took place, and you had the initial set of jurors sworn in. That brought us to day 3, where 2 of the sworn in jurors arrived yesterday, and they were and 2 of the sworn jurors had to be excused for different reasons. Juror number 2, whose identity was discussed on Fox, she felt that she could no longer be fair or impartial after her identity was pretty much outed, and Donald Trump then kind of reposted the segment from Jesse Waters. Juror number 4, who had checked on the questionnaire that he had not been arrested, it turned out he was arrested, and so he was ultimately excused. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office augmented their contempt motion to add the 3 other instances as well. A lot of jurors described that they really didn't like Donald Trump. They didn't agree with his policies. They didn't like his personality. They're not fans of his. And Donald Trump kind of had to sit there and just kind of watch it happen as he was out of his kind of safe space and kind of bubble surrounded by his MAGAs. But a lot of the jurors said, look, I can set that aside. I don't like this man, but I'm going to be a fair and impartial juror. So there were more.
I wonder if that's why his lawyers made that book, so that with all those articles, because it was hard for him to listen to so many people who didn't like him.
It's really a great point. And I mean, I think there's a lot to that. Like, that book was clearly made. You know what it reminds me of, Karen? You remember when he was disgracing the White House, a lot of the stories came out from like his former chiefs of staff and people who had left. And they said that that's how they had to like distract him and give him information with that. So it almost seems that perhaps my prediction would be, Jason Miller is in the courtroom with Donald Trump's right hand, and Stephen Chung, Donald Trump's spokesperson, are always there. It wouldn't surprise me, because they have that knowledge, that they were there and helped Trump's lawyers come up with the picture book to kind of distract him with headlines that made Donald Trump feel good. But anyway, I wanted to give those 3 days just to remind everybody where we're at. Let me toss it back to you, Karen, with that as, again, kind of a framework. Where do we go from here? Any surprises that you saw so far? Do you feel good about this jury being fair and impartial? What do you make of all of this?
Yeah, I feel really good about it. I think, like I said, I think the system, I trust the system. Obviously, I spent my entire career in the system, and I just think that jurors, the way it works, the jurors, the ones that shouldn't be there typically aren't, and the ones that should are. Every once in a while, so the stealth juror sneaks on, right? Somebody who lies, like that one juror who said he'd never been arrested, but it turns out he was. But the system worked because they found out. And that's what normally happens, is you find there are people, and not everybody, maybe he was embarrassed. Maybe he thought it was a long time ago, and so he didn't want to tell anyone. It's something that happened, I think, in 1990. And, it's hard sometimes to talk about some embarrassing things in front of a room full of people. And it's intimidating to be there in front of a former president of the United States. And so there are times when people, not because they're bad people or because they're liars or because they're trying to sneak onto the jury or anything like that, there are times when people just, you kind of freeze, and it's hard to share personal details in open court. It's hard sometimes just with strangers in general, but in this particular instance, there are so many layers of kind of checks and balances, if you will, right? There's the questioning by the judge. There's the questioning by each side, by the lawyers. There's the background investigation that people do on social media. And in this day and age, almost everybody's on social media. So you can find a lot out about people. And so it's like I think it would be difficult to have somebody sneak onto the jury like that who doesn't belong there. But I've seen it. I've seen it happen. That's the famous 11-to-1 hang, where the one person holds up the whole jury, and the rest of the jury comes out and says this person's refusing to deliberate. They're refusing to reason and listen, and juries sometimes, verdicts don't always happen very quickly. My husband once had a jury, that a criminal case, the jury went out and they deliberated for 6 weeks, 6 whole weeks. We had a vacation planned, and my husband missed the whole vacation. It was really annoying. That's not usual. And the fastest verdict I ever got was a 17-minute conviction where they went out and they beeped once and they wanted the evidence, and they got the evidence, and then they beeped another time and they had a verdict. But typically a verdict happens in a day. Typically they take a day to really sort through, almost a whole day, sometimes overnight into 2 days, to really, because they take it so seriously. They go count by count. It's not like, oh, I hate Trump, so he's guilty of all 34 counts. That's not how they'll do it. They'll go count one. Okay. Count one alleges falsifying business records, and these are the elements, and this is the evidence. Okay. I want to see the checks, okay. I'm looking at the checks. Now, what did so-and-so say about that? And sometimes they'll say, you know what, can we go back and read the transcripts? And so the whole jury files back in and they send a note, and they say, the judge reads the note and says, the jury would like to hear the transcript of Stormy Daniels' cross-examination. And so the court reporter comes out and reads the transcript from the cross-examination, or it could be the particular portion of a particular cross-examination or direct examination, whatever it is they want. And then they go back and then they go through it again, and you have no idea what's going on in there. It's agonizing, actually. I've had juries deliberate and there's yelling and screaming in the background, and you're like, oh my God, what's happening? They're arguing with each other, but it's agonizing because you have no idea what's happening. They send out notes and ask for things, and everyone's like, oh, what does that note mean? What do you think? And you try to read the tea leaves and see what it is. And what it really is it's them taking it very, very seriously and analyzing the evidence and analyzing the facts and applying them to the law. And so that's what this whole process is designed to do. It's to get the people who will be willing to put in the work, not the people who like or dislike somebody. And it sounds, and that are inappropriate for this case. And the jury seems pretty good. I mean, look, we don't know anything about them. They're anonymous. We just know what we read. But they've got smart people, and they've got a whole mixture of people. And there's professionals and just a whole mixture of a different kind of people from all over Manhattan, different demographics. Some people weren't born in this country, but now live here. Some people lived elsewhere part of their life. Not everyone's born and raised in Manhattan. It's a whole cross section and mixture, just like Manhattan is. And so I think it's going to be good. And I think it's going exactly the same pace that almost every other case would go. There's nothing special about this case. It's absolutely similar to every other case I've had. That's why I said to Popak, I think we'll have a jury by the end of the week, because that's about how long it would take in a case like this. So, so far it's just fairly unremarkable. I'm sure we'll have some colorful, dramatic moments, as most trials do. But I think by the end of today, we will have the remaining 5 alternates. And then what will happen next is the judge will swear the whole panel. And at that point, jeopardy attaches, and let the games begin. And opening statements will be next, and then the witnesses come. Oh, what happened today, though, that I thought was very interesting is I'm sorry, yesterday, I'm so tired, I can't even remember anything. What happened yesterday that I thought was so interesting was the lawyers for Donald Trump asked the prosecution for they have a witness list, right? They know who the witness list is for the prosecutors. And they said, we want to know who the first 2 or 3 witnesses are that you're going to call. And why do lawyers ask each other that? So they can prepare over the weekend, right? Because they have a whole slew of witnesses and you want to prepare. You want to prepare your cross. You want to read all the discovery. You want to do all that stuff. And the prosecution refused to give it over to Todd Blanche and Susan Necklace. They said, sorry, your client has been tweeting out and intimidating and upsetting the witnesses. You have forfeited that right. You have forfeited that courtesy. We're not doing it because we don't want him to scare them away. We don't want them to, because they don't trust him. And so the defense attorney brought it up to the judge, and the judge said, they don't have to give it to you. So I thought that was really interesting that they made that choice.
I think that's incredibly fascinating. I don't hear many other outlets even talking about that. So is it normally a requirement that you provide the names of those witnesses, or is it usually a kind of collegial thing that you would do at the Manhattan District Attorney's Office as a matter of course? You help the other side out, they help you out. Should be noted here, I mean, help them out in terms of structuring the schedule, not help them out in terms of the case, of course. But also, you have a situation here. Not only is Donald Trump harassing, intimidating, and threatening witnesses, and if you gave the names, Trump would likely just accelerate those threats and intimidation over the weekend. But even Trump's lawyers, they didn't turn over exhibit books and normal types of things that would be turned over early on. So that is. Have you ever had that on occasion? Did you ever withhold that information? Is this a unique situation given the threats and intimidation?
I actually, believe it or not, I had to do it once it was like a really violent gang kind of case, where I was nervous, where I was really nervous about the witness's safety. This is unusual, especially in a white collar case. It's almost always done where, look, people practice together and you get to know each other and you want them to tell you ahead of time, because it's actually quite frustrating when you have, who knows, 25, 30 people on your witness list. You have these long witness lists. What are you going to do? Prep every cross for everyone in advance? I mean, you're prepped in the sense that you've gone through the discovery, you know generally what you want to do, but then you get laser focused. I mean, the amount of work that goes into trying a case, you don't eat, you don't sleep, you're up early in the morning prepping, you're up all night prepping for the next day, and then you get up early and it's really a grueling schedule, and it's hard because when somebody testifies and you're going to cross-examine them, you're going to listen very closely to everything they say, and then you're going to know all the other things that they've said in other places, and you're going to want to cross-examine them on inconsistencies. So you have to know all of that. You have to know where it is in the discovery. Discovery is huge and voluminous now, because you've got not just prior statements, but you've got emails and communications and documents, and so you want to know exactly where these things are, and so it's a huge amount of work to get to that point. And so as a courtesy, you always tell them, okay, yeah, today we're going to call these 4 witnesses. Then the next day, because so-and-so is out of town, I'm going to go out of order and call this person. And the lawyers appreciate it because they know who to prep for. And here it said, I'm looking for Adam Klasfeld tweeted out. It says, after prosecutors warn about Trump's social media posts about witnesses, defense attorney Todd Blanche suggests that his client. Oh, no, that was something else he said. That was funny, but I'll finish reading it because it was funny. After prosecutors warn about Trump's social media posts about witnesses, defense attorney Todd Blanche suggests that his client won't truth like that. And then the judge deadpans that he will not tweet about any witness ? I don't think that you can make that representation, which I thought that was kind of funny. Okay, here it is. This is what I was looking for. It says, normally this is a courtesy. Wait, hold on. it says, okay, it says this is the first branch of hearing about it. So he requests the names of the first 3 witnesses. Steinglass, who is the prosecutor, says that's usually a courtesy, one he doesn't want to extend to Trump because he's been tweeting about the witnesses. Judge Merchan says he can't fault them for that and he won't order it. So normally it is a courtesy, so the defense counsel will know who to prepare each day, but they forfeited receiving that courtesy. So now they'll have to be prepared to cross any witness at any time, not knowing who is next.
Karen, I have 2 final questions for you. Number 1, in addition to predicting when this jury would be selected, if things keep going on this pace, which is a normal schedule, when do you expect there to be a verdict as of right now with things moving? You know, there are some people who were saying the jury selection is going to take 3 weeks or 6 weeks. I heard a lot of people purporting to be experts saying that, but we here on the Midas Touch Network and you were saying, I think it'll be done by this week. I think it'll be done. I'm not making fun of Popak there. Popak thought it would be done by early next week. It's not like Popak was in the 3-week, 6-week camp. But you were saying, look, I know this office. I know this court. It'll be done by Friday. So with that as background, when do you think we get a verdict?
So I'll do a better job after I hear the opening, because the opening statements are a preview of what the prosecutor intends to prove. And so there's been a lot of speculation. Will they call Stormy Daniels? Will they not call Stormy Daniels? I'm going to say they are calling Stormy Daniels. I'll make that bet. And let's see that we'll get a really nice preview of what they expect the evidence to be, because that's what opening statements are. Opening statements are not argument. Summation is the argument where you argue your case and you say, this is what we think we proved. This is what the law says. But opening statements required by law in New York, it is required that the prosecution give an opening statement. Defense attorney is not required to give an opening statement. And so we will know fairly, I will hear what they say, what they expect to prove. And so I'll have a better sense of that. My guess, if I had to guess, is that at most it'll be 6 weeks. I think this is more, I would say 5 weeks. 4 to 5 weeks is what I would say. The wild card is, and the reason it's hard to predict these things is because Alina Habba, for example, she's not a big cross-examiner, right? She didn't cross-examine for very long. We don't know the style of these 2 attorneys. They could keep somebody on the stand for an hour. They can keep someone on the stand for days. And that's the wild card. So if they, for example, want to cross-examine Stormy Daniels for 3 days, that obviously extends the trial. Or Michael Cohen is someone they could cross-examine for a long time. Another thing that's a wild card, and the reason it's hard to predict how long the case is going to be, is because we don't know about the defense case, right? Are they going to put on witnesses? And if so, how many and how long? So it's hard to know. That's why I want to hear what the openings say, and then I'll give you a better answer to that. But I say 4 to 6 weeks is what this feels like as a trial. So we'll see if I'm right.
And it's also unclear right now, Karen, what Donald Trump's defense is. Do you have a sense of where he's going with this? I mean, obviously what he says in the public is a bunch of nonsense, but do we have any sense of where they're going even?
I think he's going to ultimately say he's going to blame everybody else, right? Oh, my accountants told me it was okay. My lawyers told me it was okay. I don't, I think that's what it's going to be. I never met this woman. I never had sex with her. And
you think he's going to go with? You think he's going to go with never had sex with her?
Oh yeah, he's never going to admit that. He's going to say, just like with E.G. and Carroll, he pretended he'd never seen her before, and then they show a picture, and he thinks he's with Marla Maples. It's the same. It's the same thing, right? I think he's just going to deny it. He's going to say he never had sex with her. He can't deny Karen McDougal, right? That was a long-term relationship. But Stormy Daniels, I think he'll deny that. And he'll say, it was a shakedown, it was an extortion. And, we paid her off. Paying hush money is not a crime. I didn't want that negative stories coming out that were false. And, my crooked lawyer, Michael Cohen, and Alan Weisselberg, who's a twice convicted felon, they're the ones who they're the criminals. They're the ones who decided to come up with the scheme. I'm too busy. I wasn't paying attention. I didn't, that's what I think he was going to say.
Karen, does that open the door, though, then to Stormy Daniels testifying about what went down in the room when Donald Trump was saying statements like, this is what I think had been reported, and maybe Stormy had said this, or I read this in a report, that he started talking about Ivanka right before everything went down. And, she famously went on Jimmy Kimmel, who gave like a row of mushrooms, and she's picked one of like the smallest. Does it get it? If he opens the door to nothing happened, does normally, I don't think that would all get in, but does that anyway? Am I asking too many questions I'm so fascinated by this conversation.
I don't think he needs to open the door. She gets to talk about what happened. I think she's going to get on the stand and say, we had sex. It's all coming out. It is all coming out.
Well, stay tuned, everybody. There's no one else I'd rather be having on this show and discussing all of these matters than Karen Friedman Agnifilo, the former number 2 at the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, but more importantly right now, the co-host of Legal AF. Karen, it's always a pleasure and an honor to hear your perspective and your take. Thank you for taking the lead here on the Midas Touch Network of this trial coverage and allowing us to lead the country and the world in the coverage day to day on this trial. It's appreciated. Everybody, make sure you hit subscribe as well. This weekend, of course, Michael Popak and I will be doing our episode of Legal AF, which we do live on Saturday at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific. That will be on Saturday. Today, Friday, after the trial concludes, Karen Friedman Agnifilo and I will be going live again, and we'll be doing our final weekly recap, and then we'll start again on Monday. We'll make sure we recap. Make sure you tell, though, this is helpful to have this grow. Share this with friends, family members, coworkers, anybody you know. Share this resource, because knowledge is power. And the more we can empower people with the facts, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, the evidence, I think it is the most important cure for a lot of the disinfo out there. And we rely on this community to just get out the facts, get out the truth, get out the evidence, get out the importance of law and order. And we know you'll do that. So thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, that's it. Let's get to the proceedings today. Karen, thank you. Shout out to, make sure you subscribe to the Legal AF audio podcast as well. Shout out to the Legal AF, or shout out to the Midas Mighty. Thank you so much, Karen. Everybody have a wonderful day, and we'll be back soon.
Enough! Send it to the big house, not the White House. Get the new exclusive tees, mugs, and stickers right now at store.midastouch.com. That's store